Trigger warning. Suicide, alcohol, and alcohol addiction is discussed in this podcast episode 190. Some people may find this triggering. If this causes any distress, please seek support and contact Lifeline Australia on 13 11 14 or National Alcohol and Other Drug Helpline on 1800 250 015. In a crisis, please contact your nearest hospital, emergency services, or a qualified medical doctor or medical professional. Hi everyone, it's Yvette Blowitz from spaitgirl.com and welcome to Feel Good From Within. I'm super excited to be here with you today and with our very special guest, Karolina Rzadkowolska. She is an alcohol-free empowerment expert and best-selling author of Euphoric, an 8-week plan to ditch alcohol and reclaim your life. We're going to be speaking to her about her passion when it comes to helping intuitive women change a relationship with alcohol for good. Karolina believes we were born with a special purpose that alcohol blocks. Karolina, welcome to the podcast show. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Yvette. Such a warm welcome. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so grateful you're here with me today and with our beautiful global audience. Welcome. I'm so happy you are here and grateful too. I'm holding up your book, which I picked up from Dimick Sydney in Sydney, Australia. And I absolutely loved the cover and the name, and also how you had written a book, which was an 8-week plan to ditch alcohol and reclaim your life. Before we dive into your book, are you happy to tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
So today I am an author, I am a coach, I am an entrepreneur who works with intuitive women who want more from their life. I want more than drinking is able to offer. And it doesn't really matter, I think, how much you drink. We have this horrible stereotype in our society that only heavy problem drinkers should look into their relationship with alcohol. But I think what's happening is that women are starting to listen to their hearts and to really ask themselves, is this helping my health? Is this helping me achieve my dreams? Is this helping my sense of ambition? Is it aligned with my values? Is it helping me be a better parent? And when they don't like that answer, it's just quest to dig more, to look into this, to really put on the lens of curiosity and self-love, to really try a new way and discover a different way of being in the world. And obviously I came to this conclusion myself because when I was in college and grad school, I totally overdrank. I learned how to drink back in college and it wasn't very healthy, but it was also just carefree and it's just what everyone was doing. But as I got older, I started to really get into health. I started to eat better. I started to work out. I would do yoga. I would do meditation. And around my mid-20s to late 20s, I basically had this pattern where every Monday through Thursday, I lived a very healthy lifestyle, yoga, green juice, meditation, and then every weekend I would drink and overdrink at that. And by Monday morning, I would wake up feeling horrible. I would wake up just feeling like I got hit by a truck. And honestly, it wasn't just the physical effects of alcohol. It was really this emotional feeling I had too. I was doing so well during the week. And now all of a sudden I'm waking up 5 steps backward. And this happened to me every single week. And yet I didn't really see a way out of it because a lot of my drinking was done socially. It was your game night, sushi night, dinner party, wedding, all those kind of natural things that we do in life. And I just couldn't really figure out how I keep my social life and take a break or change my relationship with alcohol. Found myself stuck in this pattern for a really, really long time. And it wasn't until I discovered a break from alcohol that everything changed.
When you took the break from alcohol, what did you first notice and what did you discover?
So first of all, just the idea of a break from alcohol was a little revolutionary to me because I had grown up believing or seeing, whether it was from cultural references or movies or TV or people I knew, that there was problem drinkers and they called themselves the A word and they go to these meetings and they can never drink again. And so I was really taught this idea that you evaluate your relationship with alcohol based on whether or not you have a problem with a capital P. And, when we think of the stereotypes, we think of someone under a bridge with a paper bag in their hand, right? And like most of us are nowhere near anything like that. And so I literally was so stuck for so long because I was like, well, if I have to quit drinking, I have to identify with that person. And then I have to manage this condition basically for the rest of my life. And so just the idea of a break was like, wait a minute, I'm allowed to actually just experiment with a break from alcohol without labeling myself, without going around and telling people that I have a problem, without claiming any of these things by just exploring what a break from alcohol would feel like. So I did that, and it was through dry January, and I felt amazing, honestly. I felt amazing. I was sleeping so deeply. I was waking up feeling so much more energetic. I was noticing my mood was really elevated. I was feeling happier and happier. I was noticing nature more and playing around more. And I really felt this intense sense of self-love and pride every day, because every single day I abided by the intentions I had the day before. Whereas with drinking, I really couldn't say that. With some days I'd say to myself, oh, don't drink tonight, or only have one. And maybe I did it. And then other days I just broke my rules. So it was always this toss up that made me actually feel like I was losing my self-esteem over time. And so this like self-love and confidence I got during this break from alcohol was incredible. But February comes around, and I honestly don't even believe that normal adults are allowed to not drink. I believe in my mind, normal adults drink. Karolina, if you want to be normal, you have to drink. So I started drinking a few times in February, mostly social events. And the contrast was just so incredible to me. Like 1 or 2 drinks in, I'd get cranky, frustrated, exhausted, tired, pick fights with my husband, not sleep well, wake up feeling not great the next day. And I was like, wait a minute, like alcohol kind of sucks. This isn't fun. This isn't relaxing me. This isn't doing any of the things I thought it was. And so I took another break at that point in February. And basically, I've been alcohol free ever since. And more and more and more blessings just started manifesting in my life. And so I really wrote this book to share, hey, wait a minute, guys, this is what happens when you take a break from alcohol. It's not about deprivation. It's not about feeling the odd one out. It's not about all these horrible feelings we associate it with sacrificing something. It's the incredible joys you can experience on the other side that literally helped me find my deeper purpose and find meaning and fulfillment in my life.
And I love in your book how you share there is this belief, and it's been sold to us on so many levels, that if we drink, that will help and reduce our stress. You go to work, and the way that you unwind after work is to have a drink, and that'll relax you, that'll take your mind off things, and that'll fix everything. And I know in my experience, that is not true. Can you share a little bit about alcohol and how it's not really a healthy tool to use for de-stressing?
And even looking back at my own life, let's say I had a stressful day and I came home and I drank a few glasses of wine or whatever, I would wake up with so much more stress the next day. Whatever I was stressed about didn't go away. And now I didn't feel my best. Now I felt that regret. And it's like my stress was compounded the next day, not relieved. And I like to share with people, drinking is not just a 20-minute experience. It's a 48-hour experience. And we're so good at only seeing the very first part and not really recognizing, nope, this is the whole effect of alcohol. And so alcohol is a depressant. It will slow our central nervous system down and our brain down. And the way that I've been told and understood this from incredible brain scientists is that alcohol is actually slowly killing brain cells and slowing them down in that sense. Like the buzz we feel when we're drinking is literally the feeling of our brain cells slowly turning off, which is actually not that enticing when you think about it. But it does slow our system down, and our body has a way to counteract that so that it doesn't just put us to sleep or kill us or something like that. And so our stimulant system turns on after we drink alcohol, and our body releases stimulants in response to the alcohol depressant. We release cortisol, adrenaline, dynorphin. Dynorphin's like the opposite of endorphins. It actually makes us feel really low and sad. They found that people who commit suicide often have a high level of dynorphin in their brain. And alcohol is releasing that every single time you drink. So that Monday morning feeling I had, I thought it was me. I thought it was all me. I thought there's something wrong with me. And it was literally the effect of alcohol, because I'd always considered myself a fairly optimistic person. And here for me to be so glum just didn't seem normal. It was the effect of alcohol. So as these stress hormones get circulated in your body and brain, if you just have one drink, let's say, and carry on with your day, 2 hours later, 1 hour later, you'll feel a little wired, a little weird, a little maybe exhausted. It just kind of feels off. But most people don't just have the one drink and carry on with their day. They drink a few drinks that night and then go to sleep. And so sometimes when you drink a little too much, you'll notice those stress hormones coursing in your body when you wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. with a crisp wake up call. And you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't go back to sleep. How many drinks did I have? It's just so hard to go back to sleep. And that stress and anxiety and kind of self-loathing is really at the expense of those stress hormones. We also wake up more anxiety the next day, definitely. After the kind of sedative effect of alcohol is worn off, that's what we're left with. So ethanol usually takes a matter of 24 to 48 to how many hours, depending on kind of what your age is. Younger people can metabolize it faster, but the stress hormones last much longer. They can last anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks in our bodies. So the thing that I recognize now is that when I didn't drink during the week, but I drink every weekend, I was always dealing with those stress hormones in my body during the week. And then I would drink and numb them for just a quick minute and then bring them back with an onslaught. When I took a break from alcohol, I really gave my chance for my body and my brain to rebalance. And I just recognized how much less anxiety and stress I felt when those stress hormones weren't being coursed through my body. Alcohol also changes our response to dopamine. So it does elicit dopamine when we drink it. And that's really similar to cocaine or heroin. Like this is like a drug that's stimulating our pleasure center in an unhealthy way because it creates this artificial spike of dopamine in our brain, but then it crashes. And it crashes so low, and also exposure to alcohol, our receptors that are receiving dopamine in our brain actually retract. And so we're not as receptive to dopamine naturally anymore. So drinkers have less ability to feel happiness from being with a child or walking in the woods or having an ice cream or just these really simple pleasures in life. And I can tell you, I felt that way. Like the highlight of my week was happy hour, and everything else I kind of felt apathetic about. And so when you take a break from alcohol, not only are those stress hormones going to get out of your system and you'll feel naturally a lot more calm, your dopamine levels will come back to normal, as will your serotonin and GABA levels, which alcohol also affects and lowers. So by the time I was 4 weeks alcohol free, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, I was like singing with the birds, like looking at trees and clouds. I was so happy. And really, that's why I called my brand, my company, my book Euphoric, because it was the complete opposite of what I thought a break from alcohol would be. I thought it would be maybe a little depressing or a little sad that I couldn't drink. It was totally the opposite. I was so high on life. And I really believe that when you start feeling your emotions instead of numbing them with alcohol, you kind of recognize, well, why am I stressed? Is there something in my job that's missing? Am I not as fulfilled because I'm not working on what I'm passionate about? Do I have a lack of boundaries around something? Do I need help with more housework around the house? Like these emotions are coming up for us to solve them, not for us to numb them. And we could numb them forever and be kind of like on a hamster wheel and never get to at the root of our problems or issues. Or we can let them come up and yes, feel them. That grows our resilience over time, but also get solutions to what our emotions are trying to tell us. So for me, yes, stress was a big one for me when I was working, but it was also stress mixed with boredom because I wasn't that passionate about what I was doing. So I recognized that tendency I had to just not be able to wait for the weekend, not be able to wait for Friday night to be able to drink was literally because I was so unfulfilled with my week. And when I went alcohol free, I started to get the confidence and the courage to look into that and find what was really going to give me passion. And I got the courage to launch my own business, leave my day job, get so much meaning and impact from the women I'm able to help. Just viscerally, I cry almost every week and I get goosebumps almost every week just to hear these incredible stories of transformation and vulnerability, and really just changed my life so that stress and boredom, while totally normal and present in small amounts in my life, aren't the dominant emotions anymore.
That's such an incredible, empowering story of what you noticed. And now, when it comes to stress, as a non drinker, what do you do to try and relieve the stress? So, if our listeners are tuning in going, oh, that's me. I use alcohol after work to de stress, but then I wake up the next day feeling like crap. And then I feel really anxious, or I feel depressed, or I feel lousy. I just want to eat greasy food, lay on the couch. I feel horrible. Ugh. What would you recommend, or what are some things that our listeners could try in replace?
So I love the idea of rituals. And I actually think the ritual of coming home and pouring a glass and telling yourself the day is over is actually kind of beautiful. But the thing is the ethanol in that glass isn't really serving us. It's actually like creating the story that you just shared. And so rituals, what they do is they demarcate parts of our days. They tell our brains that it's time to switch over to a different season or a different mode of operating. And there's this really incredible study that I love to share where at one time they put these participants at a bar or restaurant and they put little brain nodes onto their heads so that they can measure their brain waves. Now, everyone had just come from work, so their brain waves are pretty stressed out. They're kind of chaotic and really high peaks and stuff like that. And then everybody orders a drink. And all of a sudden, their brain waves relax. Everyone has these nice, mellow waves after ordering a drink. Now, here's the kicker. Nobody actually drank the drink yet. the brain waves relaxed just with the second that they ordered a drink, not actually had any of the alcohol in their system. So that really tells me that the brain relaxed because of the anticipation of the ritual and the reward. And so if we think about it, we sit down and have a glass of wine with our family or friends. We sit on the patio and we do these things that I think are really pretty in the sense of like we're not running around stressed out anymore. And so the easiest way someone could change that habit is literally just to find a different drink, to pour a drink that they love, but that doesn't have ethanol in it. So there's so many alcohol-free beers, wines, spirits, mocktails that have things like nootropics and adaptogens in them. There's health elixirs galore. There's coconut waters. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of drinks out there on the market that don't have alcohol in them. And you can really still make a special ritual out of drinking them and sitting down. Now, that's just the easiest because it's just a really fast replacement. But I've really come to learn that when we're stressed out, our body is in that fight or flight mode where our sympathetic nervous system is really on fire and we need to somehow decompress and go over to our parasympathetic nervous system. So some of my favorite other tools in my toolbox that I also recommend and teach to my clients, and everyone will be unique. Some of my favorites are watching the sunset, for example. That connects me back with nature, connects me with something that's literally like the universe painting this beautiful masterpiece in front of me. I usually go on a walk. Maybe I have my dog. Maybe I'm at the beach. It's just this little beautiful reminder of how profound our life is on this incredibly miraculous planet. I like yin yoga. I like to do meditation. I think taking a bath, even a shower can be really helpful, like water therapy has a tendency to calm us down. So really figuring out all these different healthier ways of meeting your needs. They sound common sense. Like, oh, go on a walk or take a bath. I know they sound common sense, but they do really work. Breath work is really effective as well. I have a program called Dry Boot Camp where we take a break for 22 days together and we just focus on practicing these new rituals, really practicing them, both to relax. And then in the other vein, we don't just use alcohol to relax. We use it for a lot of different needs. Sometimes we want alcohol because we want life to be a little more spicy. We want a sense of adventure. We want to go out. We want to have some exploration in our life. And I think that need is the opposite need of wanting to turn off. It's wanting to turn on. And so there's other ways to meet that need as well with so many more adventurous, exciting activities than the same old drinking routine that we've all done over and over and over and over. My whole philosophy, my whole theory, I use words like experiment, exploration, curiosity. This isn't about ditching alcohol forever. It's about trying a new way of life for a little bit. And then once you try it for a little bit, you can compare apples to oranges. If you like apples better, go ahead and go back. But if you like the oranges better, see where it'll take you. And I just have found that most people who try alcohol-free, they don't want to go back because they love how they feel. And it's totally normal to go back and forth a little bit at first. I'm not saying it's like a forever thing, but it's just like, what do you want your predominant lifestyle to be? Do you want alcohol to be a regular actor in your lifestyle, or do you want it to be irrelevant, small, insignificant, or very, very occasional?
I absolutely love those tips you shared. I personally have gone alcohol free and it has to be the best I've ever felt. So it was pretty divine timing when I found your book because I was 3 months in. I felt like at the time I was the only person not drinking and it was so bizarre. And everyone's like, "You're not drinking? You don't drink? You're not drinking?" It was a big deal. And I was like, "Oh, what kind of excuses am I going to make up here?" And then I'd go, I want to wake up in the morning and go for a walk. It's so important. While I'm here, I want to wake up and go for a walk. So I've had to learn to express why. I mean, I shouldn't have to. People should just be not caring. I'm not having a drink. But because it's such a big deal in our society and people think when you get together with everyone, it's all about drinking. I think I was the only one out of what seemed like maybe 50 people, might have been me and one other girl, were the only ones not drinking. We had a desire to get up in the morning, go for a walk, and plus then feel great throughout the whole day because we knew we were going to be sitting down for a conference. And when I did drink, the next day I'd be like, oh my goodness, what have I done? There's a lot of shame and embarrassment. You do things that are stupid. You really aren't your best self. I discovered it wasn't a true reflection of who I am as a person. And it was making me become a very horrible person, someone I didn't want to be. And I was like, why is this happening? And then I figured out, because I too would say, I'm just going to have one drink and then go into another and go into another. And then if you're around a lot of people who are heavy drinkers, it goes into a bottle and this and that. And I mean, it can find us in a rock bottom place, and it's not a good place to be. So then when I experience the difference of not having to wake up worrying about shame, embarrassment, I could wake up the next day, do the walk, feel good, and get on with it. Have you found that to also be a pivotal change in your life? You're not living with as much shame and embarrassment?
That was huge for me. And I'm so thankful for you of sharing your story and your vulnerability, because we just don't talk about this as a society. It's kind of taboo. We talk about the good things about alcohol, the rosy things about alcohol, like, hey, let's go to the winery, let's go to the beach bar club, whatever it is. But we don't talk about, oh, hey, wait a minute, is this how you feel the next day too? And the more work I do, the more I realize that most people feel like this. And it's because it's a biological effect of alcohol. It really, really is. Alcohol induces the brain to want more of it. So it's actually really hard to stop after one drink if you've been exposed to it. Most people who stop after one drink don't really like drinking. They don't really drink that much in their life. So the more we're exposed to alcohol, and it wasn't even our decision necessarily. I mean, it's like a rite of passage all teenagers have to go through. My brain was not fully formed at that point to even decide. It's like something we're initiated in, and it's our code to belonging, to acceptance, to fitting in, to be maybe thought of as an adult, as sophisticated, glamorous, you name it. So socialized upon us. And so it's really not something that's uncommon to overdrink at any situation that usually isn't just calling for us to all have one glass of wine. Have you ever been at a dinner party and someone pours just everyone a glass of wine and everyone's like, okay, we're done for the night. That's it. Let's put the wine away. No, that's not how it works, right? We all overdrink. The majority of people overdrink. About 60% of drinkers overdrink regularly. And about 50% of drinkers wish that they drank less or not at all, because we wake up with those feelings of, wow, I was out of alignment with my character yesterday. I said things that I would have never said. I opened up to someone who I don't even like. Things like that. I would definitely have these crippling moments of shame where I really overdrank at a party or a wedding or some kind of get together. And I just didn't want to be seen. And I was an adult by then. So this idea of who I wanted to be and who I really was showing up as when I was drinking gave me the worst pain and the worst shame. I was so, so embarrassed. And I think it was always the sense of I couldn't trust myself either. Because sometimes I was perfectly fine. Sometimes I just had the one. And other times the intention went out the window. Alcohol was going to be involved in the equation. I couldn't trust myself. And I have always been someone who has a lot of pride, a lot of independence. I really value integrity. And all of those things were no match when alcohol was around. And it really made me feel like I didn't have freedom. Like something else was always in control here. And so going alcohol free, like I was explaining, that self-love I felt the next day, that pride I felt the next day, it was like, oh my gosh, no matter what, I could not work out. I could eat kind of poorly. I could get in a fight with my husband. No matter what, though, my consciousness has not been taken away from me. And I am here the next morning, proud of my decisions for the most part. That shame and that embarrassment, it really crippled my self-esteem a lot. And I think that's why I was stuck in so many other ways in my life. I always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I wasn't taking any action on those things as a drinker. I didn't really believe I was capable of that stuff. If I'm not even capable of abiding by my rule of no more than 2 drinks at a party, then who was I to ever do these bigger dreams? And so that really kept me stuck, and honestly feeling like there was something wrong with me and that I just was a defect and I couldn't handle alcohol or something. And it's just crazy because I don't think there's one person on the planet that wakes up after drinking and says, I feel like $1 million today. Like it just isn't how alcohol works on the body.
You mentioned about swapping the habit with a healthier drink or another drink, and I made that switch. So I started drinking kombucha. I wanted that quench or to have a drink, but I was just choosing, and I still choose to this day, a healthier version. I kind of get that, yes, water's not it. I want to have a drink. And I love in your book, you share a lot of mocktails. And it's so interesting now. You have gin and tonics that are alcohol free. We've got a lot of wines coming out that are alcohol free. So there's ways for people to still feel like they're having a drink, but a healthier version. And even my mum thinks that's brilliant because we've come so far, but we've still got so far to go where we accept that alcohol isn't good for mental health and it isn't good for aging. And I just saw recently Dr. Emin, and he's a psychiatrist, and he did a little story about alcohol and the effects. And he said if there was one thing you wanted to do, which you share a lot about this in your book, is give up alcohol. And I just couldn't thank him enough when he shared that, because it becomes addictive. Been there. It can control you. But I want to ask you now, your life has changed so much. You had a dream to write. So you went alcohol free. You then started writing. How does it feel to see your book actually published and out, so people who want to really get better mental health or well-being or feel better can now pick it up? How does it feel?
It does feel very surreal. And, when I see it in a bookstore, like, I'm still just like, wait a minute, I am in a bookstore? Like, what is going on? Some people tell me that before they started drinking, they were so much more connected to themselves. And maybe as a high schooler or even in middle school, they kind of were connected to their deeper intuition. And so I remember my deeper intuition telling me that my gift and my life destiny was to be a writer. I used to love writing little poems and short stories and journaling when I was an adolescent. And it's the most uncanny thing, but the moment I started drinking was in college. Up until the age of 30 is when I stopped drinking. My writing just completely dried up. I stopped journaling. I stopped writing stories. I just completely stopped writing. It was like I had the worst writer's block for a decade. And the thing was, the desire didn't go away. I still wanted to be a writer. It was still a very, very big desire. So I remember making these New Year's resolutions. Okay, this is the year that I write like an hour a week. By the end of the year, hopefully I'll have something like a manuscript. Every year, I would write for like the first week of January and then just drop it. Nothing was ever written. And so there was a part of me by the time I got older that I was like, you know what, Karolina, it's not possible for you. Like, you're not going to be a writer. Completely gave up. And it was so intertwined and intertwixt with my relationship with alcohol. But I take the break and I start feeling all of this energy and creativity and this intuition too. And I really start journaling voraciously at that moment. And I think the reason why it was so hard for me to journal when I was drinking is there was a part of me I was ashamed of, just like we shared before. There was a part of me I was trying to disown. And if I can't be honest in a journal, then how could I ever be right about anything truly? And so I started journaling alcohol free, and I started recognizing like, oh my gosh, I have a book inside of me. And I remember being at the beach, maybe 3 months alcohol free in Hawaii, watching the sunset. And the word euphoric just comes to me. It was like a divine, like euphoric. I'd never thought of the word before. It's not something I normally use in my vocabulary. And a week later, I remember getting every single chapter, like the same chapters that are in the book, like all the headings just came to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been searching for creative ideas and something to write for so long. And all of a sudden it just came to me this quickly. And so that creativity really got me to write the book. And then I went through the process. Writing a book, if you want to get traditionally published, isn't easy. You have to write something, then you have to write a book proposal, which is like a business plan for your book. You have to get an agent. So the process itself was long, but I had this determination and this drive to just take one baby step after another. Okay, so first I have to do this. All right, I'll work on that. And then the next I have to do this. Okay, I'll do that. And that kind of drive and follow through is just not something I had as a drink. It was so much easier to open a bottle of wine than write the next great American novel. I always went for the easy route when I drank. And so it just changed what I believed I was capable of, and then therefore the actions and the behaviors to write this book. So seeing it is obviously, to me, kind of like a gift to that little girl version of me who always dreamed and was right. Like, she knew what she was talking about. And I'm so glad that I got back to her. I was able to share this book and help other people go through the same exact challenges I went through. I remember writing this book and thinking of a woman on a metro reading it. I was thinking of the future reader. Because honestly, at the end of the day, this book was written for the past version of me who needed this book. I think that we all go through our challenges for a reason. I think our challenges are there to teach us and to help us be able to then turn around and help the woman behind us or the man behind us with the wisdom that we've learned through the experience so that they don't have to go through it alone.
And I love your book because you go into a lot of the neuroscience, what it's actually doing with our brain, our mental health. And I was able to pinpoint the next day after I drank, my anxiety went through the roof. It was an absolute trigger. And of course, you're not going to see that on marketing photos, are you? Where everybody's at a party or celebrating with the champagne, and they're not going to show the next day the after effects. So during COVID, it was very concerning, I thought, that one of our essential shops that was open was the bottle shop. I could not believe this. So we had grocery, pharmacy, petrol stations, and the bottle shop. Seriously, what do you want to sit at home all day and night and drink? And I was like, this isn't going to help anyone. Like, I was really disappointed the spas were closed or the massage places where you could get some relief from stress. I understand it was a human to human touch virus at the time, but it just did not make sense for me. So I was like, this is inviting people to drink even more. Obviously, the companies are going to make massive profit because everyone's at home. You touched a little bit about this in your book, and I thought, you are so on the same page as what I was thinking. What did you notice when it came to alcohol and marketing during COVID where you live?
That's such a great question. The alcohol industry makes around $252 billion a year. And it's such a sneaky business model because all you need to do is make teenagers think that they have to drink this drink to become adults and then embed it into the life for the rest of their lives until they die. So you have customers for life, essentially. Minus a pregnancy or two, most people start drinking when they're 15, 16, 17, 21, whatever their age is, and they continue on until they die. It's kind of a good moneymaker, wouldn't you think? That's just a good way to get people in for life. And so the alcohol industry, their job is to misinform us. They'd love to try to make alcohol seem not necessarily healthy, but just confuse us on how bad it is. Is moderation good for you? Is it not? There's been so many studies that have come out that show that not any amount of alcohol is good for us. It only raises our cancer risk. It deteriorates our brain health. And really, really great was the Federation finally came out and said a drink a day is actually bad for our heart. Because for so long we were taught the opposite, which was really due to flawed studies and some studies that the alcohol industry would support and fund. I would see adverts about whiskey, in my magazines that were like, this is what you need to de-stress out from COVID. These horrible messages. Now, I'm not a prohibitionist. People can choose to drink should they want to. But I just can't stand the expectation, one, that we get from society that one must drink, especially socially. I mean, anytime you go anywhere past 5 p.m., there's going to be alcohol. And if you're not drinking, you're the one with two horns coming out of your head. And the same thing of this idea that when we're stressed out, we deserve a drink. And, I think it's really insidious when they market this to women because women have been their biggest target market for the last 20 years. And they have this message of parenting's so hard, having your career is so hard, everything's so hard. Here, you deserve a drink. And it's so insidious to me because you know what? Women deserve so much better. They deserve a culture that sees and values their work. They deserve house care. They deserve health care. They deserve equal pay. They deserve community. They deserve self-love. They deserve partners that contribute. They deserve so much more than a drink that's going to shorten their lifespan and give them anxiety the next day and make the situation even worse. And so when it's sold under that type of rouse of oh, drink this and your stress will go away. You're so busy. There's these sayings we have, little pillows that are etched with the most expensive part of being a parent is all the wine you have to drink. And that's considered funny. And it's not really that funny. It's sad and it's not working. And I think we need to be the activists and the rebels that call it out. Because just like the tobacco industry was kind of forced to change by consumer demand and recognizing how bad it was for us, I think we're doing the same to the alcohol industry. And what's so cool is that there is a part of the alcohol industry that's recognizing this change. And they're starting to invest in new alcohol-free drinks. Big Alcohol is investing in different alcohol-free companies and really providing options. And I think that's the ultimate societal goal is that we're working towards, is that people can choose whatever they want, but there shouldn't be any weirdness or expectation to be able to choose an alcoholic or non-alcoholic drink.
What is your hope for your newfound book readers?
Well, I hope my book really posits a new worldview that life really truly is amazing without alcohol, because we have literally been conditioned to believe the opposite. We've been conditioned to believe alcohol is the source of all fun and all confidence and all sociability and all celebration and all relaxation. And those things have been programmed into our brains for years, if not decades. In my book, I want to really show how incredible life is without alcohol and give someone not only the confidence to take a break, but the confidence to also be a non-drinker in a world that really is obsessed with alcohol. And like you said, you were the only one around you doing it. More and more people are going alcohol free. They say 1 out of 3 people in the United States did dry January last year. 4 out of 10 people don't drink anymore, when it used to be only 1 out of 10 people. So it really is catching on all over the world. But oftentimes, initially, you are the first one in your social circle. You know why? Because you are the leader. You are the inspirer. You are the role model. And it's when we see other people doing something that we are curious about, or we feel weird about, or we're not sure about, we get the courage to try it too. So I have to thank you so much for going first in your social circles. You have no idea what kind of ripple effects that will create. And, I obviously hear about so many ripple effects that this book and my programs and my business and just the movement has been creating. And it just fills me with so much feelings of true meaning. Purpose, meaning, and fulfillment, I think, is something we're all searching for in our lives. And somehow we get just so stuck in work for a paycheck, drink to relax, but it's not really relaxing us. We just get so stuck. And this awakening has brought me back to what really matters in life and what's really most important. And I just hope that this book will act as kind of an awakening for someone else to know that they matter, they're important, their voice should be heard, that what they've been going through is not odd or abnormal, or that there's something wrong with them, that it's extremely common, and that in fact only the most intuitive women actually listen to that voice, that they're made for more than drinking, and to be proud of that.
I love that. Have you found that you've had to create new friendships?
For friends that really see you, that honor you, I remember sharing this journey of mine and they were just like, oh, I feel like that too. Like I was kind of calling out alcohol for what it really was. And I feel like it strengthened some of our relationships because I was being more honest, more vulnerable, but I was also kind of sharing more of my dreams as well. I was starting to share about how I want to write this book and launch this business. So it kind of changed the direction of our friendships from small talk and just having some happy hour together to really go into the deeper things in life. I've definitely worked with clients who've had to set a lot of boundaries around people who really have nothing on their plates other than drinking and choose just more healthier events to engage in. I really like the idea of addition. So I do this with nutrition as well. Instead of focusing on what you need to remove in your life, add more. So with nutrition, I say add more fruits and vegetables and you'll be too full to eat the bad stuff. But with friendship, I think it works too. Instead of saying, oh, I can never hang out with these people anymore, to put an intention on finding and attracting women who really do light you up. And there's so many alcohol-free meetups these days, mocktail events, bars, sober raves, just events going on, communities on the internet. I'm hosting retreats, for example, for alcohol-free women in both Bali and Puerto Vallarta this year. There is a community out there. There's a way to find these women out there. And so finding more women who light you up. Right now, as you shared, when I go out with some friends and have kombucha or whatever, I feel high. I feel high hanging out with these incredible, powerful women. Alcohol is not dulling our senses. It's not making us act out of character. We all are truly connecting at a really present level instead of being kind of insular when you put alcohol into the equation. I really truly believe connection is so much stronger and heightened when alcohol is out of the picture. And there's so many people, honestly, too, like the movers and shakers of this world that I admire so much. Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Brene Brown, Gabby Bernstein, many of the last presidents of the last 20 years in the United States, they all don't drink alcohol. And I think it's not a coincidence. I think it's a secret to success.
I love that secret to success. You are so right. And if I think of people, I think of David Goggins as an example.
Ooh, he's great.
Rich Roll, who's incredible in the industry, and even Russell Brand. Incredible. I always see him doing his podcast and he's drinking kombucha, and to see so many incredible people changing their life. And you, Karolina, if people want to read this book, obviously grab a copy. I totally recommend it. This is the best way to stay in touch with you after this podcast show.
You can go to euphoricaf.com, and I'm always running programs. My signature program is called Become Euphoric. It's featured in the book. It's a group coaching program that's run all the time. It's very, very connected, and women find bonds there that they hold for a long time. It has daily support. It has group coaching calls, but really a framework that I've developed not only from my own experience, but after working with so many people, of how to remove your subconscious desires with alcohol. And it's so strange because we think when we want to stop drinking, we think it's all about habit change or behavior change. And there is an element of that in there, but it all starts with our mindset. It all starts with looking at the beliefs of why we've come to like alcohol, why we think it serves us, why we think we get benefits or comfort or pleasure from it, and turning those beliefs upside down. Because once your brain literally, not just on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level, doesn't desire alcohol anymore, it becomes meaningless to you. For example, I used to smoke cigarettes in college, and now, you couldn't pay me to smoke, right? It is meaningless to my brain. It's not like I can't smoke cigarettes. I don't feel deprived when I'm not smoking cigarettes. I'm like, what? Who's smoking cigarettes still these days? And I want to help people get to that same way with alcohol, not something that they can't have or shouldn't have, something they literally don't even desire to have anymore, by really popping the illusion of alcohol and getting to the truth of the matter. And so doing that beautiful work in a community, the group coaching and the guidance with me and my coaches is just my favorite place to do it. I also run a dry boot camp program that's a little shorter. That's fun for the sober October or the dry January. euphoricaf.com. You can learn all about that. I'm also hosting retreats there too.
I only recommended your book yesterday to a psychologist because there are a lot of people who in Australia want to actually ditch the Aussie way of you need to drink to fit in. And I've even got one of my podcast listeners, followers, who's excited to hear about your book because she's been alcohol free for 2 years and it's the best she's ever felt. So people are transforming their life and your book's going to help in so many ways. So Karolina, thank you so much for your precious time. I'm so grateful that your life has transformed, that you've written your book, you made your dream happen, became a published author, and that you are helping so many people right around the world to become euphoric. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Yvette. It's such an honor.
Bye. Thanks for being part of the show and listening into Feel Good From Within with Yvette Blowitz Spirit Girl podcast. I hope you found this conversation of interest and of benefit to you. In support, I would love for you to subscribe to Feel Good From Within with Yvette Blowitz Spirit Girl podcast on any podcast app you listen to your podcast through. To also leave a 5-star rating and a review of what you think too. And to share this show with your family, friends, and community. Be sure to subscribe to my mailing list at spiritgirl.com, YvetteLeeBlowitz.com, and feelgoodfromwithin.com. And to follow Spirit Girl, Yvette Blowitz, or Feel Good From Within on any social media app. And together, let's feel good from within.